In today's video, I'm going to be making tier lists on all the styles in the game as of the Timeskip Hinoto update. I couldn't find an updated tier list on Tier List Maker, so I just went ahead and made my own. I'll link that in the description if you also want to make your own, but be sure to subscribe. All right, so here I'm at the tier list, and first of all, I'm going to throw in all of the greens. As you can see, all the greens don't really have like that great of stats. I do think the best green is actually Sagawara. I don't know how to say his name because he's actually got decent scent, decent spike. He's just kind of like out of the greens, like out of the worst, he kind of shines, I think, the most. So I'm actually putting him at the top of E. I do think he's a little better, but mostly if you have a green, they're almost indistinguishable from each other. They just do everything just mid to slightly below mid or slightly above mid. Just like before this update, they're all still just not very good. So I'm putting them all into E. And that broadly goes the same for blues as well. Blues are also just like slightly below or slightly above mid, but to a little bit more of a degree than like greens. As you can see, some of these blues do have slightly better stats. Like you can see Nichinoi's got max bump and dive, pretty good speed. This one's got max jump and pretty good set. So you can see they do have slightly higher and also slightly lower stats than the greens, but mostly they're all just kind of like in the middle. And if you're using any of these, you should probably just be trying to get to a red as soon as possible. But I can say if you are using any of these, probably prioritizing like a spike and jump standards for the best, because everybody who's in lobbies where they're still using these are just jumping and spiking anyways. All right, now that I'm on the C tier, this is kind of the tier for like the reds where they're either not very good or there's another red that does it like a lot better, like does the same thing a lot better. And for the first red, we got Kosumi. I think like Kosumi and Sagafura, like I compare these two stats, and Sagafura he's just significantly faster. He does everything about the same as Kosumi, but then he's significantly faster. You can say, well, he's got less jump, but he's got so much more speed that I think Sagafura is just a better Kosumi, but neither of them are really all that great at all. And then my next one is going to be Yomute, which mid block, mid jump, mid speed, doesn't even have a great spot, like a max spike to make up for that. He's also going into C because if you consider him a spiker, which he is, it's like, he's like kind of a spiker, but he's got dive and bump pretty high. These all have dive and bump pretty high, and those are just not like the two greatest stats in the whole wide world to have really high. So, and then for the one that I was just mentioning, Yabu, you can see Yabu. He's going into B. He's one of my favorite characters in the game because he's so quick. But you can see not only being quick, like he can jump, he can block, he has the dive, like he's got like a lot, and he's got a midway set, which is pretty good. Yabu's just like all around, like Yabu's probably the best libero in the game. Like if you're playing 6s and 4s, having Yabu on your team isn't like, it's not terrible. He's so good at defending because his block is high and his jump is high, so he can play up against the net and defend, and his speed is high and his dive is high, so he can play back and defend. And with, like I said, with the midway set, he can set to people as well. He's a pretty good red character. He's one of my favorites. Maybe I'm a little biased. Next, I got Oigawa, and I'm putting Oigawa mostly because I think Kageyama is just, and I'm actually throwing Kageyama right now. I think Kageyama is just a slightly better version of Oigawa. I think they're really close, but I think Kageyama is better, so I'm putting Oigawa down into B. So I think if you're rolling for like godlies or you get a godly, I think you should be trying to get Kageyama, mostly because of his speed. Oigawa does slightly have him beat on his jump and serve. I think speed is one of those stats where it's like disproportionately important because speed helps you do everything. It helps you get to the ball more, helps you play defense more. It's just all around like one of the better stats to have high. So the fact that Kageyama has it pretty higher than Oigawa, for me, puts Kageyama clearly ahead of Oigawa. That in the stats where Oigawa is beating Kageyama, it's not by like a lot. Like Kageyama has like 1 tick under max serve, 1 tick under max block. It's kind of close, slightly higher spike. Neither going to be doing crazy spiking. So that's for me what it is. And next we have three pretty much spikers. For me, all of these spikers are fairly indistinguishable from each other. I know they all have their ups and downs, but for me, these are all really close. Ushishima just recently got nerfed. Azamina and Kuze, I don't really know if they got nerfed or buffed because I never used them. Most people, if they were using a red spike, were just using Ushishima, and he got nerfed probably to make him more balanced with the other reds because Ushishima was very good for a red before. He was by far the best red in the game before. Now, I think he's pretty close with everybody else. You look at his stats and his jump got pulled down. His spike is still max. His speed is still halfway. It's mostly just his jump that really affects him. And you can look over here at Kuze, he's still got max jump and near max spike. So it's kind of gonna be preference. I think if you roll any of these three spikers, they're all gonna be good. They're all just slightly different. I still put Ushishima a little ahead of these two just because he does have higher speed, but you can argue that these two have higher serve, so you want to go with them. It's kind of just taste, but it's not really like a definitive best amongst these three, I think. And next we have Bokuto. I'm putting Bokuto at the front of A just because he is now the only non-secret that has max jump and max spike. He can serve it really well and he can block. Now you could argue he's like slow as shit, and he is slow as shit, and he can't set, but he is such a good spiker. He is probably, after the Ushishima nerf, in my opinion, the best spiker, because now with Ushishima he doesn't have the max jump. Bokuto still got the max jump. So for that, Bokuto is going at the front of A for me, and pretty comfortably as well. And for the last two, I don't think it should be any surprise. It's Timeskip Hinoto and Sanu. Timeskip Hinoto I am putting ahead of Sanu just because he is insane. And this max bar, I know it does say max spike, but it actually it fluctuates from 75% spike to 100% spike. So I'm not really sure how you would consider that. The longer you run in a straight direction, the higher, like the stronger your spike gets. But even at bare minimum, even if you just stand still, jump and spike, Hinoto still has a pretty strong strike. On top of not being bad at literally anything, having max jump, max speed, almost max serve, he is, in my opinion, clearly the best character in the game. And then in a kind of close second is Sanu. Also, before I end the tier list, I do want to say these are all three spikers, or these are three non-spikers. If you do play spikers, I would just kind of flip these. It's hard to say like a spiker is ahead of a setter because they're two different positions. So I wouldn't really look at that all that much. Like also with Bokuto and Kageyama, I know I say if it's farther to the left, it's better, and if it's farther to the right, it's worse. But that really doesn't apply all that much to setters versus spikers because, again, they're just different positions. It's like I'm not really saying Yabu and Oigawa are better than these three spikers because those are spikers and those aren't spikers. But yeah, that's the tier list post update. I think everything is a lot more balanced in my opinion, despite a few outliers like these ones right here. And the only reason they're not balanced is because they have shitty stats maxed. But besides that, a lot of the characters are much more like balanced now. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I think they balanced out a lot of these characters and then made like the secrets really strong in comparison, but I don't know. Anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.